North to south, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report. We bring you the news. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We point out each. I make commentary. That is not the news. That is simply my opinion, just as valuable as yours, which brings us to debate. The check and balance between what we read and deal with in the news. The commentary I make is debate. And you are welcome to take part in that debate, and by all means, please do. You can do it on chat. You have an opportunity at Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. And I got some news. On this brave new world of the John David Wells podcast, the Wells Report podcast. And I'll get that to you in just a couple of seconds. Let me bring you up to date on a few things that just happened. Anne Heche has died. She received a major head injury in her accident and was being kept alive by artificial means, and they let her go today. And that just happened. So Anne Heche, at age 53, has left us. And an unfortunate soul, but receiving the lauds, being lauded now by her Hollywood colleagues, but she has passed away. Also, Salman Rushdie, the author of the Satanic Verses, was stabbed in the neck today by someone we don't know a whole lot of information about. We don't know the condition of Salman Rushdie. Last I heard, he was still alive, and we will be covering that a little bit later on here on the Wells Report on this very nice Friday. It's beautiful out here. I don't know what your weather is, but it's pretty nice here in Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas. News. I am not a computer expert. I know that seems strange. I mean, I work with lots and lots of computers, and I'm very, very adept at, doing the research for the broadcast and so on and so forth. However, the ins and outs of setting things up having to do with this broadcast and what we are doing, which is to provide an opportunity to walk and chew gum at the same time. In other words, this is a very radio-friendly broadcast. Radio broadcasters from around the country can grab this broadcast and put it on the air anytime they want to. All I ask them to do is give me a call at 817-379-2172. I'll send you an affidavit, tell people that you had actually run the show, and maybe we can get something going. The other thing we're trying to get going is trying to make this possible for, I hate to say this, to bring revenue into the Wells Report. There have been a lot of people that have approached me about wanting to contribute to this broadcast. Well, I attempted today, and I think I've been successful, but I'm not sure. I attempted today to set up a Patreon account for the Wells Report. And with any luck at all, it is going on Patreon as we speak. In other words, if by the way, you have found us on Patreon, by all means, take part in the chat. We'll be doing a Discord chat here in a little bit where people from Discord, I couldn't figure out how to do it today, but Patreon works with Discord so that you can have a really nice chat room. And I'm trying to put that all together. Okay. I've got to call the great James Parker because he apparently knows all about that. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give him a call. However, what I'm trying to say is this, is that if you want to support the Wells Report financially, I believe we have a way to do it. Okay. And so if you would care to be a part of it, please, by all means, go to The Wells Report or patreon.com/The Wells Report, and you'll find the broadcast. Whether it's going on right now, I don't know. I think I did everything right, but I'm not sure. So all I want you to do is I just want you to give that a look, and we'll see what we can do about trying to monetize this broadcast if you find it worthwhile. By the way, if you do find it worthwhile, do me a favor. Aside from the thumbs up and aside from sharing it with your friends, please subscribe to this broadcast. If you like this show, subscribe. Ring the bell so that you know when it's on the air. And we'll be more than happy to be friends forever and ever and ever. So there you go. New information, and I even have a very slick graphic that I put together here just a second ago, and there it is. Contribute to the Wells Report. Go to www.patreon.com/the Wells Report and sign up. Okay? So once again, this is all new to me. You know, they say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, it's amazing what survival will make you do. I'm just saying. So if you think this show is valuable, by all means, put your money where my mouth is. So let's get to work today on this Friday. The Wall Street Journal has reported as follows. The FBI recovered 11 sets of classified documents in the Trump search of Mar-a-Lago on Monday. Here is the copy, being written by Alex Leary, Arunta Vishanantha, there we go, and Sadie Gurman. FBI agents who searched former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago home removed 11 sets of classified documents, including some marked as top secret and meant to be only available in special government facilities called secret compartmented information facilities, a SCIF. There is one at Mar-a-Lago. This, according to documents received and reviewed by the Wall Street Journal. The Federal Bureau of Investigation agents took around 20 boxes of items, binders of photos, a handwritten note, an executive grant of clemency for Mr. Trump's ally, Roger Stone. A list of items removed from the property shows. Also included in the list was information about the President of France, according to the 3-page list. The list is contained in a 7-page document that also includes a warrant to search the premises, which was granted by a federal magistrate judge in Florida. By the way, that list has, or at least is very shortly going to be made public. Okay, so please, by all means, check all that stuff out. Okay. In other words, we'll check that out and we'll follow that story and we'll let you know. The list includes, Mr. Trump's lawyers argue that the former president used his authority to declassify these materials before he left office. Once again, that's the give and take between the National Archives and presidents of the United States. They take stuff with them. And this, of course, being a part of the we hate Trump under every possible circumstance, then this is not necessarily even-handed with regard to other presidents taking materials out. More about that coming up in just a couple of moments. So, various classified TS-SCI documents. The list included references to one set of documents marked various classified TS, top secret, SCI, secure compartmented information documents. That's an abbreviation that refers to top secret, and whatever. It also says agents collected 4 sets of top secret documents, 3 sets of secret documents, 3 sets of confidential documents. The list did not provide any more details about the substance of those documents, and that's good. Mr. Trump's lawyers argue that the former president used his authority to declassify the materials before he left office. While a president has the power to declassify documents, there are federal regulations that lay out a process for doing so. We will see if President Trump followed those processes. The Biden administration is in obvious damage control after their botched raid where they seized president's picture books, a handwritten note, and declassified documents, said Trump spokesman Taylor Budowich. The raid on President Trump's home was not just unprecedented, but unnecessary. The search and seizure warrant signed by U.S. Magistrate Judge Bruce Reinhardt shows the FBI agents sought to search the 45 office, as well as all storage rooms and all other rooms or areas within the premises used or available to be used by the former president and his staff, and in which boxes or documents could be stored, including all structures or buildings on the estate. They did not seek access to private guest rooms, such as those of Mar-a-Lago members, according to the document. The former president and his team don't have the affidavit, which would provide more detail about the FBI's investigations, according to people familiar with the process. An affidavit would explain what evidence, including witnesses, the government had collected and describe why investigators believe that a crime may have been committed. Mr. Trump's lawyers have asked for a more specific account of what was removed from Mar-a-Lago. The disclosure of the warrant and the inventory marks the culmination of extraordinary work, which began last Friday at 12:12 p.m. when a judge signed off on an unprecedented search warrant to search a former president's home. 3 days later, at 6:19 p.m., a lawyer for Mr. Trump, Ms. Christina Bobb, signed a receipt for the items that the FBI took that day. Let me give you the Fox News version of this while we're at it. FBI agencies classified records from former President Trump's home at Mar-a-Lago during its unprecedented raid on Monday, including some marked top secret. This, according to documents reviewed by Fox News. U.S. Magistrate Judge Bruce Weinhardt signed the warrant on August 5th, giving the FBI authority to conduct its search on or before August 19th, 2022, in the daytime, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. The locations to be searched include the 45 office, all storage rooms, all other rooms or areas within the premises used or available to be used, etc., etc. The warrant gave agents authority to seize all physical documents and records constituting evidence, contraband, fruits of crime, or other items illegally possessed in violation of U.S. code. This includes documents with classification markings and presidential records created between January 20th, 2017 and January 20th, 2021. In other words, the term of President Donald Trump. According to the property receipt reviewed by Fox News, FBI agents took approximately 20 boxes of items from the premises, including one set of documents marked as various classified TS-SCI documents. If that seems familiar to you, the TS-SCI note was applied to several documents in the possession of Hillary Clinton. They were kept in an open server that we would find out would be being accessed by at least the People's Republic of China and their intelligence services. Now, those materials are, while they are top secret or secret compartmented information, those are not necessarily the crown jewels that people in the media will be trying to turn these things into. There are an awful lot of statements being made now about the FBI going after secret nuclear documents. Those documents probably don't have anything to do with actual weapons technology, and I would be absolutely shocked if there was any of that information that was in the open source. It is just not available. It's not available to even presidents. I mean, you can get a summary of what that is. You can get a summary that's very carefully written, carefully redacted if you want to, but you can't get the actual information on nuclear weapons and take it out of any facility that it happens to be stored in. Also, by the way, as I mentioned before, there is a secure compartmented information facility on the grounds of Mar-a-Lago. Further, the FBI had seen all of this material in June. They had seen it all. And if it was indeed as earth-shatteringly important as a raid at Mar-a-Lago would indicate, why didn't they take it out of there then? Remember, the former president has been absolutely cooperative under every circumstance with the FBI. Why didn't they take it then? There are a lot of problems with this. And right now, we're just sorting through the information. That's the news reporting on the Wells Report. Back with more in just a moment. This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. We entered a brand new world today. We opened up a Patreon account, and and Mike Renwee has gone there, signed up, and started contributing to the Wells Report. Michael, thank you very much. We're in a brand new world here. As you may not remember, at the end of last year, I donned my Texas State Guard uniform. Before I say this, by the way, I want to make something abundantly clear. I'm a member of the Texas State Guard, but nothing I say on this broadcast or any other broadcast or any of the platforms that I'm on or anything have anything to do with the Texas Military Department or the Texas State Guard. Anything that I say about this has nothing to do with their policies, their procedures, etc. I am incredibly mindful of being a good soldier in the Texas State Guard. And so my opinions are mine. I am solely responsible for anything that I say having to do with the Texas State Guard, even peripherally like this. Many people who have been on this broadcast know. They know that I have that I've been a Texas State Guardsman now for almost 14 years. It is a privilege to serve. But they also know that I made a very solemn vow that while I would use my radio broadcast to promote the Texas State Guard, I would not use the Texas State Guard to promote my radio broadcast. So with that being said, please understand, anything I say about anything having to do with the Texas Military Department and the Texas State Guard, solely my responsibility and solely my words, not theirs. Now, so last year I put on my uniform and I headed down south and I served 8 months down on Operation Lone Star. And it was something that was essential. During that time, the network that I was on and the radio station where I worked, well, they made different moves. The network merged with another network who did not need me. And so I was no longer with the USA Radio Network. I wish them great success and luck. And I appreciate everything that the people of the USA Radio Network have ever done for me and this broadcast. The radio station was sold. It's now a Vietnamese radio station. It's doing well as far as I know. And I would say good luck to them too if I knew how to say it in Vietnamese. But I don't. So this broadcast, while radio friendly, essentially is what you see. And that means that the support of a salary for the work that I would do at a radio station or with a network no longer exists. And I promised when I came back from the mission, I was not going to have Susan subsidize this broadcast another day. She for reasons that I'm not going to go into. I went without a paycheck for a couple of years, working at the radio station for some ownership there. And I was the general manager, and I wanted to make sure that my employees could continue getting paid. In order to do that, I had to go without a salary. So Susan, my wife, my beloved wife, Susan, subsidized this broadcast for over 2 years. And I promised that she was not going to continue doing it. And so in order to make that happen, well, I've got to turn this broadcast into a money-making proposition. And today, the great Mike Renwee, Yvonne Field, and perhaps others, I haven't gone over there to look because I just don't want to get emotional today. But other people are contributing to this broadcast. And it's hard to find a way to say thank you adequately. It really is. But if you'd like to do that, by all means, subscribe to this broadcast on YouTube and in Facebook and everywhere else, and make a contribution at Patreon if you'd like to. This is the Wells Report. Back with more in just a moment. And a pleasant Good Friday to you. Not Good Friday, but Good Friday. It's Friday, okay? It's Friday. When this one's done, I get to do what I always do on the weekends. Go sit down and fall asleep. That's what I do. Man. We are discussing the raid at Mar-a-Lago, and some of the details about that are coming out. There has been a release, or there is shortly an official release of the search warrant itself and the inventory. We've been reporting on that. There was some ambiguity as to the official release, but the Wall Street Journal published it today, so it's definitely out there. That being said, there were TS/SCI, in other words, top secret information, in boxes removed by the FBI from Mar-a-Lago during that raid, and we're hearing information about that. In a statement released today, former President Donald Trump did not deny a Washington Post report that said the FBI had searched his Mar-a-Lago home for classified documents with information about nuclear weapons. Instead, he pointed out that President Barack Obama illegally kept classified documents. That's what the former president said. Barack Hussein Obama kept 33 million pages of documents, many of them classified. How many of them pertain to nuclear? Word is lots. Asked whether the Trump statement appeared to confirm that nuclear documents were uncovered at the Mar-a-Lago raid, former Justice Department official replied, "Sure sounds like it," as we found out today. Apparently, there were certainly top secret information that was found. TS/SCI information found, very much like the same materials found on Hillary Clinton's server, that was not the subject of a raid, nor the subject of anything else. No kind of legal sanction of any kind. But the president former President Trump did say that President Obama did indeed take classified information with him. Now, the National Archives has come out with a statement that said there were 33 million documents taken by President Obama, and none of them were classified. We will find out whether that's true in the very near future. I did not take any classified information. This according to a Trump spokesman. The correct answer is I didn't take any classified information, said the former official, who requested anonymity to candidly discuss the topic. The person added, "Word is, love that. Word from who? His barber?" Yeah, that's possible. Earlier today, President Trump released another statement that appeared to dispute the Washington Post report. Nuclear weapons issue is a hoax, just like Russia was a hoax. 2 impeachments were a hoax. The Mueller investigation was a hoax, and much more. Some sleazy people involved. Former President Trump's public statements come one day after Attorney General Merrick Garland announced the Justice Department had filed a motion to unseal the search warrant underpinning the FBI Mar-a-Lago raid. A magistrate judge subsequently ordered the department to confer with Trump's lawyers and advise the court by 3 p.m. today whether the former president would agree with or object to the DOJ's motion to unseal. The president came out today and said, absolutely, by all means, release the information. And they have. The former president has been drawing comparisons between the FBI search for classified records at his Florida home and President Obama's transfer of records from the White House to Chicago for his presidential library. As the Business Insider, that's who wrote this article, the Obama records were processed through the National Archives, which owns them. Okay, well, yeah, once again, we've been talking a little bit about how there is always a dispute between the National Archives and former presidents about who owns what. So there you go. That's the story there. And there will doubtless be more discussions about this. And by the way, President Trump is, according to Anne, who is on the chat room, the president is now advocating for the public release of the classified documents. So if indeed there is a paper trail for those documents in the president's possession at Mar-a-Lago, if there is a paper trail that they have been unclassified, there would be nothing stopping anybody from going ahead and publishing those if indeed there is a paper record. If there isn't a paper record, this could get sticky, and we'll see what happens in the search and in the proceeding of how we parse through all this information. So this from USA Today: on his social media site Truth Social late last night, former President Donald Trump said he will not oppose a federal court in Florida unsealing a search warrant that authorized federal agents to search his Mar-a-Lago residence. Not only will I not oppose the release of documents, I'm going to take a step further by encouraging the immediate release of those documents, and was correct. Trump's comments came after the Department of Justice earlier yesterday filed a motion to unseal the search warrant absent objection from the former president. The former president's legal team had until 3 p.m. today to formally respond. They did. The details of the documents have not necessarily been uncovered at this particular moment, and we will see. By the way, in case you're wondering, there is some commentary from people who are looking at all of this, and what they're saying is that those people are suggesting that that the affidavit be released. So they want the specific information given by whatever informant that was. And the day after I had brought up the only thing that made any sense, that informant would have to be a member of the Secret Service, something that was immediately pushed back on by the Secret Service itself, both former, not so much the Secret Service itself, sorry, by former Secret Service personnel. They would say indeed that no, there was not information that there was not information given by a Secret Service member to anyone. Now, we'll see. We will see again whether or not that's supposed to be there. People are asking, by the way, about the subscription link on our brand new Patreon site. It is patreon.com/The Wells Report. You can see it right there on the little crawl. If you can't see the video that's going on right now, then you can hear it now. It's www.patreon.com/The Wells Report, and you'll find it. And so there you go. And apparently it's working. I'm not exactly sure. You can also search, as Gary points out, you can also search the Wells Report on the Patreon homepage. All right. Now, if any of these pieces of information are indeed released to the public, which I doubt will happen, okay, now we'll see. But the president has no problem with it because he is assuring everybody that will listen that those were not classified documents, okay? So if indeed they are ever released, they will doubtless be redacted, and we won't know what the redactions are. So that is the very latest. Now, this is significant. This is significant. Significant. Now, from what we understand, the president has been indeed following all the protocols. He's been cooperating with everyone about this. And in June, the FBI was in Mar-a-Lago, and they saw all this information. Now, with this information and all this knowledge, they said, by all means, please lock this stuff up. And they did. A lock that was broken off by FBI personnel when they came to do the raid. So that is the situation there. Also, yesterday it came out that the reason that there was so much draconian FBI action involved in this particular search, the reason was because there were possible nuclear documents there. I went, yeah, none of them would have anything to do with weapons technology or weapons ideology or anything of the kind. Certainly not from the United States. There was an article that talked a little bit about perhaps an investigation regarding nuclear weapons on the part of various agencies around the world looking at Saudi Arabia. Now there may be some documents along that line. And once again, this is all just supposition on my part. But what I want to say is this. What I want to make sure of is this. If indeed the reports that this was absolutely critical nuclear information that Donald Trump had kept in boxes in the basement of Mar-a-Lago, why he would do that, I have no idea. He's got a SCIF, a secured information, secured communications information facility. He wouldn't keep anything that was classified. He puts forward the idea that all the information that they found was unclassified by him, which he can do. So all I can say at this particular moment is that if indeed there were very serious nuclear weapons documents in the possession of Donald Trump, they sure as hell would not show up with police cars, flashing lights, so on and so on. It would be a very, very quiet, very, very private collection of those documents, and they would be removed. There would also be federal charges filed against President Trump immediately. That has not happened. Now, there may be an indictment or two or three or what have you based on other things. But remember, under those circumstances, that information is going to be seen by at least somebody having to do what has not been done for the president up to this point, which is due process. It will come down to due process at one point or another. And why they would go that direction, I don't have any idea. You really can't hammer President Donald Trump for any of those things, considering Hillary Clinton and all the rest of this information that has been mishandled throughout the years. So why they would make that tactical error, I really don't know. But indeed, if this was all that serious enough to do the kind of raid that we saw Monday, all I can say is that would be not the way they would handle it. It would not be the way it would handle it. Also, like I said, there would be very, very fast information that would be said. Okay? So there you go. Let me look at the chat room here. Let's see what we got here. They look for something, didn't find it. They'll redact the listing for national security. Perhaps it'll be redacted in some way, shape, or form, especially if it's released as the president, as former President Donald Trump wants it to be. Let's see. President Obama still has over 300,000 classified presidential files he has not turned over. So much for fairness. Actually, the National Archives said it was 30 million. Wow. Even if President Trump had the nuclear codes, they change every 3 months, they would no longer be valid. No, they change every day. The codes change every single day. And I know, and I'm not going to tell you how I know. Let's see. Do you have Zelle so I can send some dollars? Says Gary. Yeah, I have a Zelle account. We'll talk later. Okay. Send me an email, and you can send me an email, by the way. I don't know whether I've ever said this before. I don't think I have. If you want to send me an email, send it to thewellsreport@frontier.com. There's also another one that's on the website, and I believe that is info@thewellsreport.net. Okay, I'll talk with Jube, the incredible Jube Dankworth, who is somebody that is very, very cool. And by the way, Gary, do you happen to use PayPal? Because that might be. I do have a PayPal account with the Wells Report on it. Let's see. Then Yvonne brings up that Hillary had already let all those documents slip with her unsecured server in her bathroom. Yeah, that's another difference between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. The information that she kept was in an unlocked bathroom, or a former bathroom. At least there was a lock on the door in the basement of Mar-a-Lago. Let's see what else. Very quiet police raid. It wasn't a very quiet police raid. I mean, there were people on the streets watching it. It wasn't a very quiet police raid. Let's see. Trump told the public about the raid. I told you that too. You continue to believe Trump. So do you. I mean, I'm just reporting the news, man. I'm not believing or disbelieving. Let's go. Okay, so I don't have any idea. Let's see what else is going on. And the rest of it has nothing to do with what we're doing with here. President Obama was working with is working with the National Archives. They'll disseminate the papers. Obama didn't just take them. Well, that's what the National Archives said. He said that the president did take 30 million documents. Okay, so that's the news of today, in case you're wondering. And by the way, also, former President Trump was working with the archives as well. So, like I said, this is a zero-sum game. Back with more in just a moment. You are listening to the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Our telephone number is 817-379-2172. That's 817-379-2172. If you like this broadcast, by all means, please share it with your friends and subscribe. Please hit the subscribe button nearest you and become a part of this broadcast. Like I said earlier this hour, if you would like to contribute to the success of this broadcast, you can. You can go to patreon.com/The Wells Report. And you can make a contribution if you'd like to. And as I said earlier, there's no adequate way to say thank you at the level of the gifts that people have given me already today. There's just no way to say thank you enough. I can't tell you how humbled I am by that. There have been a couple of other things that are demonstrably unhelpful today. MSNBC contributor and historian Michael Beschloss posted a tweet last evening recounting the historic figures that had been executed for sharing U.S. nuclear secrets with foreign governments. I guess the implication is that Donald Trump was sharing nuclear secrets with foreign governments. Conservative commentary Jerry Dunleavy accused Beschloss of suggesting that President Trump should be executed, considering it was posted just after the Washington Post piece speculating the FBI had raided Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate to find nuclear weapons documents. Not true. The Washington Post exclusive from Thursday afternoon attempted to offer more details on what the FBI was searching for at Mar-a-Lago as Attorney General Merrick Garland remained tight-lipped about it in his address to the nation. Okay, who's leaking to the Washington Post? We got the search warrant today. We got the inventory list today. How did the Washington Post know it was being looked for last night? Unless someone in DOJ, someone in FBI would be leaking to them. The answer is there's no other way for them to know, period. The report cited sources speaking on condition of anonymity, claiming classified documents relating to nuclear weapons were among the items that FBI sought in search of former President Donald Trump's Florida residence. Like I said, that's not the same thing. And the implication, by the way, is that President Trump is actually committing espionage. There's only one major political figure that has actually broken the Espionage Act. That's Hillary Clinton. She did it 16 times, open and shut case, and James Comey just waved his magic wand and made those violations go away. Done. The other thing is that tweet by Beschloss caught the attention of former director of the National Security Agency and the CIA, Michael Hayden. Hayden, who was a retired four-star Air Force general and whose tenure in the intelligence agencies happened under former President Barack Obama, George W. Bush, and Bill Clinton, commented on Beschloss's post. He said, sounds about right. So in other words, Michael Hayden is going along with the idea that people who sell nuclear secrets to foreign governments should be executed, with the implication clear about that applying to former President Donald Trump. This is something you need to keep in mind. They've been trying to throw mud at the former president ever since before he was a president, while he was a president, and now that he's a former president. And the rhetoric is slowly being amped up, slowly being moved forward. And now we're getting to executions already? Remarkably unhelpful. And then Michael Stelter of CNN, from the inaptly named Reliable Sources, that's the name of his broadcast, 3 days after he writes this, 3 days after the unprecedented FBI search of Mar-a-Lago, Attorney General Merrick Garland defended employees of the DOJ, saying, I will not stand by silently when their integrity is unfairly attacked. Those attacks were being leveled by every minute of every hour by non-mainstream media sources. Okay, in other words, the MAGA media is what he refers to it. And so now what he's saying is this: attacks on the FBI came before America had the facts. The actual raid was on Monday. They knew what they were looking for on Monday. There should have been a press conference, a press statement on Tuesday. If they had all this information, they should have released it then. Americans, in absence of any kind of information, will ask questions. Now, were there death threats? Were there stupid statements being made from one end of the country to the other? Yes. And that was ridiculous. A Cincinnati guy, we're going to talk about this next hour. A man in Cincinnati decided to go shoot up the FBI office there in Cincinnati. By the way, he's dead. We'll have more details on that coming up in just a couple of moments. And anybody who takes any kind of ideology, death threats, any kind of weaponry to any kind of rally is working for the left. The people who do not want to be lumped in with all of that, in other words, true supporters of President Trump, need to disavow any of that kind of conduct and need to support the prosecution of anybody guilty of it. You cannot fly off the handle like that because you're working for the left when you do, and the totalitarian aspects of leftist politics in these United States. This is the first hour of the Wells Report. There are two others on this Friday afternoon. We'll get to those coming up in just a couple of moments. In the meantime, thanks for joining us. And I will be seeing you here in just a little bit. Okay? Peace, love, joy. See you. North to south, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. We bring you the news. We bring you analysis. We bring you commentary and debate. The news, we report it. We analyze it for fact and bias. I point out both. Commentary is not news. Commentary is just my opinion, just as valuable as yours. That's debate. Debate works like this. You can join us on chat. You can join us on the phone, 817-379-2172. If this show has any value to you, then by all means subscribe to it, please. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Also, by the way, if you'd like to support the broadcast, you can do so by going to Patreon, www.patreon.com/The Wells Report. Many people have. Thank you so very much. Thank you. The man who authorities say attempted to breach security at the Ohio FBI office may have been posting messages to former President Donald Trump's Truth Social site, even as he was engaged in the attempted incursion. The man who was shot and killed after a standoff that lasted much of the day was identified to the Associated Press and others as Ricky Schiffer. Law enforcement officials said he was believed to have been present at the U.S. Capitol riot on January 6th last year. At least USA Today called it a riot, which is more appropriate. But as I've said before, in my humble opinion, notice how I differentiate between news reporting and my opinion. That was simply a peaceful protest. Because if the BLM protests were peaceful protests, then this one certainly was. A USA Today review of online postings by an account in the name of Ricky Schiffer shows the account had recently posted angry reaction to the news of the FBI raid on President Trump's Mar-a-Lago, Florida home. The same account posted during or just after the incursion at the FBI, appearing to describe the man's efforts. Quote, "Well, I thought I had a way through bulletproof glass, and I didn't. If you don't hear from me, it is true. I tried attacking the FBI, and it'll mean either I was taken off the internet, the FBI got me, or they sent the regular cops while," and then the message stops. The Ohio State Highway Patrol said yesterday the armed man attempted to breach the FBI visitor screening facility about 9 a.m. That's an impossibility. After an alarm and response by special agents, the suspect fled. The Truth Social post was stamped at 9:29 a.m. Eastern Time. Truth Social deleted the profile for at Ricky Schiffer Jr. yesterday afternoon, shortly after media reports began to identify Schiffer. Social media service did not immediately respond when asked for a comment. 2 days previously, the account in Schiffer's name posted angry messages about the FBI search. On Tuesday afternoon, the Schiffer account posted, "I'm having trouble getting information, but Viva Frei, Vivafrei, said Patriots are heading to Palm Beach, where Mar-a-Lago is. I recommend going, and being Florida, I think the feds won't break it up. If they do, kill them." Viva Frei is a right-wing YouTube personality. The same day the account posted, "People, this is it. I hope a call to arms from someone comes from someone better qualified. But if not, this is your call to arms from me. Leave work tomorrow as soon as the gun shop, Army, Navy store, or pawn shop opens. Get whatever you need to be ready for combat. We must not tolerate this one." The post concluded, "This time we must respond with force. If you know of any protests or attacks, please post here." The Truth Social account, before it was disabled, said Schiffer was a construction mechanic in Columbus, Ohio, which is about 100 miles from the FBI Cincinnati office. A search of public records identified Ricky Schiffer as a 42-year-old in Columbus. The Truth bio also suggested Schiffer was at the U.S. Capitol January 6th, made reference to Ray Epps, a man at the center of the January 6th conspiracy theory. Quote, "I tried to explain to Epps that it would only make sense to go into the building if they approved the fraudulent votes," unquote. Schiffer was not charged in relation to the insurrection. Well, there it was. That's how you know it's USA Today. according to a USA Today effort to track those prosecutions, and does not appear in a Justice Department index of the prosecutions. A Twitter account in the name of Ricky Schiffer with a photo of a man who closely resembles the photo on the Truth Social profile was also suspended on Thursday. So that was that. Now from Fox News, police are digging into Mr. Schiffer's background. The man armed with an AR-15 style rifle who attempted to break into the Cincinnati FBI office. Schiffer is suspected of posting extremist views on several social media platforms, including Truth Social, a social media platform created by Trump Media and Technology Group, which he encouraged his followers to kill the FBI on sight. The 42-year-old, who reportedly wore body armor while armed with an AR-15 style rifle and nail gun, was shot and killed after he ended the pursuit by pulling over and engaging in a 6-hour-long standoff in a rural field in Wilmington, Ohio. Schiffer is believed to have made a post on his Truth Social account 30 minutes into the standoff, during which he admitted the attack. Well, I thought I had a way, and I read that to you. The Thursday incident came after the FBI executed a search warrant at former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago house on Monday. The account bearing Schiffer's name then took the social media platform in a call to arms on Monday. This is your call to arms from me. And leave work tomorrow as soon as the gun shop, Army, Navy store, pawn shop opens. Get whatever you need to be ready for combat. We must not tolerate this one. The message claimed they've been conditioning us to accept tyranny, and I think we can't do anything for 2 years. This time we must respond with force. In point of fact, we must not. This is exactly the guy that I'm talking about, who is working for the left. This is the guy that you cannot be. First of all, shooting FBI agents or shooting at FBI agents or trying to take FBI agents out is absolutely a crime, the wrong thing to do, and is horrifying on its face. That's thing number one. Thing number two, it's not necessary. It is not necessary. Now, there can be a public debate, a discourse, if you will, about what those FBI agents taking part in that Mar-a-Lago raid were thinking, whether they should have gone through with their orders or not. But what I can tell you is this, is that most, if not, well, some people have said as many as 95% of the FBI are your neighbors and wonderful people that do their jobs as FBI agents do. They are not the enemy. They are not the enemy. The enemy are those who would, at this point, the enemy is those who would actually step into being baited into it, to doing these kinds of acts of violence. Can't do it. You don't need to go to the Army Navy store. You don't need to go to a gun shop. You don't need to go to a pawn shop. If you want to arm yourselves for this particular fight, there are 3 things you need: an American flag, a copy of the U.S. Constitution, and your singing voice to sing the national anthem. Don't show up with a small group of malcontent people that are willing to fall into the trap being set for us by the American left. Don't do it. Do not take part. We don't need to. Believe me, when it comes time for any kind of action anywhere close to what this guy's talking about, we will all know. There won't need to be a call to arms. The American people will simply respond. Whether you choose to do so or not is completely and totally up to you. What I'm telling you is no violence. No violence. No brandishing of firearms. No foolishness. Stand down. Stand down and wait. You've heard that before. Stand down and observe. If it gets to that point, you'll know. But right now, we're nowhere close. We are nowhere close. There is another weapon you can use. It's called a vote. 88 days from now, we will be going to your nearby polling place. Step into that voter's booth and vote your conscience. Whatever it is. Whatever it is. If you think this is the right thing to do, by all means. If you think that this Mar-a-Lago raid was the right thing to do, vote your conscience. If you think it was an egregious overreach of government power that has been abused, vote your conscience. What I'm telling you to do is vote your confidence. You vote your conscience. Do the right thing, not the wrong thing. We don't need to descend into anarchistic chaos. It's not us. It's not what Americans do. We simply solve the problem. And we don't have to use violence, and we shouldn't even consider violence in doing so. A lot of people have been bringing up the patriots of the 1770s. A lot of them have. Well, that was a completely different kettle of fish. And by the way, you remember what they did? They threw tea into Boston Harbor. Does that sound like going to an Army Navy store and a gun shop and a pawn shop and get what you need, et cetera, et cetera? No. No, it doesn't. 15,000 people were on the Capitol grounds on January 6th. And everybody inside, and probably for very good reason, wet their pants. What will they do if 10 million people show up in the district with American flags and copies of the Constitution, singing the national anthem? What will they do? That's all you need to do. It's all you have to do. And once again, we'll know when that's absolutely necessary. Absolutely necessary. Let me go to the chat room and talk a little bit about this. Let's see. Merrick Garland refused to sign off on a Unabomber search warrant. Janet Reno had to overrule him to get one. Okay. Someone at Mar-a-Lago, the informant, could have leaked to the media. Well, yeah. But since we know the FBI leaks to the media, and since we know that the DOJ leaks to the media, the people most responsible for a leak to the media would very likely be one of those organizations, wouldn't you think? Let's see what else. JD, are these people, these right-wing nut jobs that he refers to, are they working for the left? Yes. Yes, they are working for the left. When you are lured by someone trying to get you into a fight, they are winning. You are working for the ideology of the left. What is that? They have demonstrated they want a socialist, totalitarian future for the United States of America. So yeah, when you take up arms and do what this guy in Cincinnati did, you're working for the left. That's what I meant. It's not a partisan statement. If the show isn't on broadcast, well, why are there breaks? Why not just run ads during the live feed? I'm trying to come up with the ads right now, Michael. Back with more in a moment. This is The Wells Report. This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Our telephone number is 817-379-2172. Feel free to call. I will take that call and put you on this broadcast immediately. Immediately. Bringing you the news. We're bringing you the issues of the day. I am not. There are a couple of people on the chat that are trying to tell me that I'm trying to blame the left for the actions of the Cincinnati shooter. I'm not blaming the left for the actions of the Cincinnati shooter. I am saying the Cincinnati shooter is working for the left and what they want for the United States of America. The guy, I am roundly condemning his actions, just as I roundly condemn anybody's actions that are along that line. It is not what we should do. Do not cross police barriers. Do not plot against the lives of police officers, including those of the FBI. Don't do any of those things. Don't take weapons to a Trump rally. Ever. Don't do it. Anybody who does those things is working to create another situation that was and has and continues to be exploited by the left. The January 6th committee tirelessly exploits the actions taken by 15,000 people who stormed the Capitol grounds and 800 people who actually went into the building. The first mistake that was made was going through those police barriers, even if they had been opened up by Capitol Police. That was a mistake. Those people were being baited, and they swallowed that bait, hook, line, and sinker. I had no idea that that was going to happen. I had no idea that what was going to happen at the Capitol building was going to happen at the Capitol building. Had no idea. But you see, now we know what they will do. They will enclose themselves in razor wire and fencing. They will defend themselves with National Guard troops, 26,000 last time around, armed with real weapons of war, real ones, pointed at us. All because these people decided to make the ultimate blunder. They rose to the bait, and we're all being hammered for it. We cannot repeat that mistake. This guy in Cincinnati repeated that mistake. He's dead. And by all means, he should be. I certainly would have liked them to try to capture him alive just to hear what he had to say. But he wouldn't stop shooting. He wouldn't stop shooting. And they killed him. There you go. George S. Patton said it really, really well. Nobody ever won a war by dying for their country. You don't win a war by dying for your country. You win a war by doing the right thing at the right time for the right reasons, the right way. None of those involve weaponry. None of them. And they shouldn't. It involves the Constitution, an American flag, singing the national anthem, and numbers. I suspect that one of these days, you remember the Bankers Box Rebellion? No? You don't remember the Bankers Box Rebellion? You may be new to the broadcast. But the Bankers Box Rebellion may actually happen. If you want to know more about that, stick around. I will be more than happy to share what the Bankers Box Rebellion is all about. I'll do that. But don't forget, violence is not going to work here. Americanism is going to work here. Pro-American brilliance is going to work here. Let's stick to that, shall we? This is the Wells Report. You are watching the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Our telephone number is 817-379-2172. We bring you the news. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We make commentary, which is not the news. That is just my opinion, just as valuable as yours. And then we debate. That debate is going on in a sprightly fashion right now on the chat room that you can find on YouTube, and you can find it on Twitch and Twitter, and you can find it on Facebook. Come on over. The party's fine. You can also call me, like I said, 817-379-2172. So, earlier today, when I was doing the preparation for this show, I ran across a headline on Drudge that said an armed man. How did they exactly say it? Let me get the exact words. Oh, here was the headline. Cincinnati shooter called a MAGA maniac. A MAGA maniac. MAGA, Make America Great Again, is stupidly being argued against by leftist politicians. They are arguing against it, which means one thing and one thing only. They don't want to make America great again. As a matter of fact, anybody who wants to make America great again is an enemy of the people. A MAGA maniac. That is how anything you do that is remarkably stupid will be portrayed. Let me give you an example of the article. It's from Axios. An armed man who attempted to break in the FBI building in Cincinnati has been identified as Ricky Schiffer. Allegedly at the U.S. Capitol during the January 6th insurrection. Axios hasn't gotten the news yet. This, according to the Associated Press, the 42-year-old from Columbus, Ohio is expected, or listen to this, the 42-year-old man from Columbus, Ohio is suspected to have ties to extremist groups, including the Proud Boys, according to the Wall Street Journal. Yeah. So the Proud Boys, essentially preparing themselves for what they call the Boogaloo, which would be an armed insurrection, a true armed insurrection in the United States, hasn't done anything. They haven't burned down a Wendy's. They haven't looted a Target. They haven't shined lasers into police officers' eyes. They haven't done any of those things. They haven't kicked people to death in the streets on video. They haven't beaten little old ladies in front of their businesses trying to protect them from vandals and thieves with 2x4s. Yet they are the true enemy in the United States, if you ask anyone. The Proud Boys got out in front of all of this and became a target. And that target is being used to blame all of us. Every single one of us. That is a mistake. And so the rest of this is basically a run-through of everything that I've already reported to you. But here's the circumstance. A MAGA maniac. Oh my God, he associated himself with the Proud Boys. How come nobody associated with BLM is talked about like a public enemy? Why aren't those guys? Because they actually did violence. The Proud Boys, most of the violence that the Proud Boys were involved in involved people hitting Proud Boys in the mouth. But this is how things get twisted. It's easy to anticipate the mainstream media. Now maybe it's easy for me because I've been in media my whole life. Maybe I can see it coming. Maybe other people can't see it coming. But anything that can be used against you in the court of the mainstream media can and will be. Look at Make America Great Again. That's a perfect example. They're trying to vilify Make America Great Again. Vilifying Making America Great Again. Then they add the word extremists. Why? Because they can. Because there's a bunch of people that are talking about really stupid things on social media. Now, a lot of it's frustration, but a lot of it isn't. Look at what happened. Look at what happened. Death threats to Merrick Garland. Death threats to Christopher Wray. Death threats against FBI agents. And what were those immediately turned into? Exactly what we saw with the January 6th riot at the Capitol. It's seen as a predicate for leftist action. It's seen as a predicate for leftist action. And we can't succumb to it. We cannot take that bait. We cannot. Because if we do, they're going to win. They're simply going to win. You need to keep that in mind at your next meeting of your militia or your right-wing patriot group or whatever you want to call it. You need to keep that in mind. Anything you do can and will be used against you in the court of the mainstream media. So how do you want that evidence to look? Do you want them seeing you wandering around in body armor with an AR-15? Or would you rather have them show you walking around in a red, white, and blue shirt of some kind with an American flag on it or what have you, holding the American flag in one hand, the Constitution in the other, and singing the national anthem? Frankly, I think the latter is what you're looking for, because they can't turn that into something else without exposing themselves. All these people, I'm the only person that I know that brought up the fact that people arguing against making America great again, nobody's actually looking at that basic political tack. Nobody's looking at it. These people are against making America great again. You add that to their hatred of free speech, freedom of religion. They don't have to worry about the free press because the free press is in their pocket because they're useful stooges. They don't want you defending yourself. They don't want you to have anything to do with defending yourself. They believe in an all-powerful government that can look into your wallet and your pants anytime they want to. That's why they don't care about the Fourth Amendment either. They've actually destroyed people's lives by ignoring the Fifth and Sixth Amendments. Self-incrimination? No, if you got a cell phone, it's wide open. No, it's not. No, it's not. Not only is what's in your cell phone, what your cell phone is your private intellectual property, it's private. Just because the signal that you use to text somebody goes through the air, and the happy idea is that anything that goes through the air is public. There is no expectation of privacy, is garbage. That's one of the reasons why I have an iPhone, because Apple wouldn't play. Apple would not play. They would not give up their algorithms. They did not succumb to the pressure being given by then FBI Director James Comey, who said nobody in the United States should have any secrets from the U.S. government. That was the most chilling, totalitarian, horrifying thing I ever heard a high government official say. And he was in charge of the FBI. Anybody call him on it? No. I did. Nobody else did. You see, when the Constitution in the Fourth Amendment talks about your effect, your papers being secure, your homes, without probable cause, without a writ, and so on and so forth, which is what this is all about, by oath or affirmation, an affidavit, if you will. They're talking about these cell phones too. And yet what happened? What happened? I'll tell you what happened. A former Trump official, standing there peacefully minding his own business, had FBI agents walk up to him and confiscate his cell phone. Why? Because they could. Meanwhile, Hunter Biden's electronic equipment is off limits for everyone. I understand that it's frightening. I understand that these un-American people are running America right into the ground. I know you're frightened. Do not succumb to your fear. This will not stand. It will not stand without brandishing a weapon. I mean, it will not. No, let me rephrase. It will not stand. You don't need to brandish a weapon. You don't need to brandish a weapon. You don't need to do any of that. All you have to do is be American. Just remember that I said that. Just remember that I said that. Will this government overreach? Yes, we just saw it again and again and again. And every time that happens, you don't send a death threat to the official responsible. No. What you do is you note it. You talk about it. You remember it. But you don't send death threats. You just don't do it because you are working to the benefit of those people who would try to get you lured into that mess in the first place. And we've seen it time and time and time again. And we had better stop. Because if we don't, they win. They win. And they're setting things up. I mean, remember the Confederate flag? The Confederate flag was seen as this horrifyingly terrible racist symbol. It wasn't, in fact, the Confederate flag at all. It was the battle flag of the Army of Northern Virginia and the Confederacy. But you don't see a lot of Confederate flags anymore. And what flag are they working on now? They're working on the Gadsden flag. You know, the one with the beehive and the snake, don't tread on me? Well, actually, no, it's a snake that looks like a beehive. Don't tread on me. Remember that flag? The FBI now identifies that as a marker for extremist activity. And I suppose that's the same thing that the English king said about that flag when he first saw it. I've got one of those, by the way, right over there on that wall. I got that flag up there. Does that mean I'm an extremist? The answer is no. I'm not an extremist. I'm worse. I'm logical. I'm well-spoken. I know the law. I know the Constitution. I know the Federalist. I know the Declaration of Independence. I know the Bill of Rights. I know all of those things. And the moment that this nation's enemies start arguing against those is the moment we win. It's the moment they expose themselves. And they've already been doing it. They've already been doing it. And what we need to do is act. At this particular moment, they can't do it without us. They can't. We have to empower them. We have to elect them. The other day, Ilhan Omar, a full-on totalitarian socialist, made it through her Democrat Party primary in Minnesota. She made it through that district's primary. Is there any reason for you to have anything to do with anything that goes on in that district? The answer is no. Boycott the place. Just don't go there. Same thing with Queens. That's who elected AOC. Stay the hell away from there. Don't give them one dime of support, and certainly don't give them one opportunity to support themselves with your miscreancy. Just can't do it. Like I said, what do we do if peaceful protests don't work? Keep protesting. Keep voting. Keep talking. It works. Ask Nelson Mandela. This is the Wells Report. Back with more in a moment. This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Ronald Reagan used to say that if government malfunctions, people will vote with their feet. He's correct. California has lost almost 1 million citizens because it's a mess. New York. Businesses leaving New York, businesses leaving California, businesses leaving Washington State, and all the jobs that they provide going with them. Elon Musk came to Texas. This guy is launching rockets into space. He's building the next internet. Those Starlink satellites, they're everywhere, bringing internet to everywhere in Texas. That's where that's happening. And oh, by the way, those launches that don't happen in Texas happen in Florida. But his business is here. People will vote for their feet. People will vote with their feet. They'll leave. One of the greatest human beings in my life is named Gary. He came to us here in Texas from New York. He just weighed in. He said, "That's why I left New York. The biggest reason I left New York, I refused to support a communist police state." You see, in these United States, we have choices. We have choices. If you're living in a communist police state, leave. If you're living in a state that's a plaything for leftist politicians and you can't stand it, leave. Leave. Get out of there. That's how you win. That's how you win. And that leads to something else. David says, what do we do if peaceful protests don't work? Well, what you do is you stop. You stop. There are 25,000 people that are leading the entire nation around by the nose. About 1,000 people in the United States government that we hear from. There are lots of there are a lot of bureaucrats. There's a lot of bureaucracies with millions of people in them, right? But really, the people you have to worry about 1,000. About 1,000 people. The mainstream media adds about 24,000 people. So 25,000 people are leading this country around by its nose. Okay? And even with the IRS adding 87,000 IRS workers, let's assume that every single one of those workers is there to audit the next middle-class American they find. There's only 87,000 of them. They keep pushing the American people, and the American people will act together. Will they act violently? I certainly hope not. The best way to act is to simply do nothing. Simply do nothing. Don't do a thing. Somebody shows up at your house, wants to look through all your books, say no. We'll get a warrant. Okay. Don't cooperate. Don't send your taxes in. Now, I'm not advocating for you to not send your taxes in. That's not what I'm saying here. What I'm pointing out is that there's actions that you can take that involve nothing. Doing nothing. Don't take part in this. Don't take part. It's called a general strike. The people of the United States simply can not go to work. Now, the government's already done that to us, so we know how to do it. We do. You know, every paycheck here for a while, just get yourself some extra stuff. Yeah, just get yourself some extra stuff, extra food, extra toilet paper. Just get yourself extra stuff. Because if they keep pushing us, all we have to do is take about a month off. If nobody shows up to work in America for a month, if nobody cooperates with this mess for a month, it will fall directly on its butt. If they keep pushing us, they keep trying to destroy the Constitution. They keep trying to take away the God-given rights that our Declaration of Independence assures us we have. We'll all know. The government takes August off. We can too. Nobody work. Nobody do anything. That doesn't involve guns, doesn't involve Molotov cocktails, doesn't involve breaking down police barriers. It just involves doing absolutely nothing. After about 30 days of that, they'll be begging for us to come back to work. And we'll say, not under the circumstances we left work, not under the same circumstances. We're simply not going to do that. So maybe I ought to have a couple of months' supply. But this is our country. The Constitution of the United States says it. We, the people. It's not theirs, it's ours. And we better start exerting our ownership of it, or they'll take it away. This is the Wells Report. See you next hour. North to south, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. What does this podcast do? What does this broadcast do? We report the news. We analyze the news for bias, and we analyze the news for fact. We report each. I make commentary. That's not the news. That's simply my opinion, just as valuable as yours. And that leads us to debate. You get to say what you want. A couple of different ways. You can join us on chat, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Patreon. Patreon, I think, I'm not sure, but I just signed up for Patreon today. I signed up for today, okay? Because, you know, I'm not comfortable discussing it, but people said, how can I support the show? Well, just listen. No, I mean with money. I'm going, okay. And I sort of flinched off of it for, well, let's see. I started after I came off of my deployment. By the way, nothing I say regarding this radio broadcast or anything has anything to do with the Texas Military Department or the Texas State Guard. When I came back from my Texas State Guard deployment, I said that what I was going to do is I was going to start doing the show. And people said, well, have you got sponsors? And I said, no, because I'm no longer with the USA Radio Network, no longer with the radio station I used to work with. So I'm on my own. This is a totally independent broadcast. It has been for a while, but now it really is, which means that I have to be my own chief engineer. I have to be my own business manager. I have to be my own HR department. I'm thinking about writing myself up for gross insubordination. Anyway, that being said, when people said, hey, how can I contribute to the show? I flinched off of it until today. And one of the real friends of this broadcast is a guy that I've had on the show a few times. Okay. His name is Aaron Amick. He is a former sonarman for the United States Navy. He lived the life that I always thought I was going to. He spent his entire Navy career on submarines. And he does something called Sub Brief, which is on Patreon, by the way. I'm one of his sponsors. I send him $1 every month. I do. I send him $1 every month because what he does is important work. Anyway, so what he did was he helped me set up my Patreon account today. And so I've got a Patreon account, and you can go there. As a matter of fact, if you look at the video of this broadcast, you can see, you can go to patreon.com/The Wells Report, and you can support the show. And people have been, and I am flattered beyond all possible limits. Now, the other part of that is that hopefully this broadcast will be on Patreon, and people will be able to see it at their leisure. Cross your fingers. Which means that what you should do is you should subscribe to this show wherever you see it. Subscribe on Twitter, subscribe on Twitch, subscribe on Patreon, subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on Facebook, subscribe. Because we need subscribers. And that's how we build this broadcast. Because I'm going to keep doing this news, and I'm going to keep doing this analysis, keep doing this commentary and this debate until I just can't do it anymore. And hopefully that'll be a very long time. That will be for a very long time. But I'm not going to be able to do it alone. And if you want to help, you can put your money where my mouth is. And I would sincerely appreciate it. So let me get to a couple of different things here. Okay. This is from the chat. Okay, Yvonne was listening to me last hour. By the way, it was a pretty good show. We defined the true enemies of the state and how people who are describe themselves as the most serious patriots in the entire country can work to be an enemy of the state. It's not really the state. It's the people who run the state. And those people are the wrong ones. And those are the people who report on the state. And those people are on the wrong ones. I'm going to talk about that here in just a couple of seconds. But Yvonne said what I was describing last hour, which was really the only thing you have to do, the only thing you have to do when you are absolutely disgusted and you absolutely feel like you absolutely have to do something, the only thing you have to do is nothing. Prepare yourself for a couple of months of not going to work. Don't take part in the society that drives you nuts. Don't take part. As I discussed last hour, one of the greatest human beings on the planet left New York because he wasn't going to support a communist police state. He came to Texas because we're far from that. And Yvonne said, well, what you're discussing is passive resistance, a pacifist resistance. Yeah. Yeah. The Second Amendment does not give you license to go get an AR-15 and shoot up the place, shoot up the FBI headquarters in Cincinnati. That makes you the enemy. That makes you a genuine enemy of the state. It does not. It gives you a reason and it gives you an opportunity to defend yourself from an oppressive, tyrannical, evil, totalitarian state. You can defend yourself in this nation. And there are people in government that are doing everything they can to remove your way to do it. And they have to trample on the Second Amendment of the United States to do it, and they do it every day. No. Don't go out there and engage them. Make it so they engage you first. You can defend yourself. But going out someplace with an AR-15 and doing something stupid is not defending yourself. You're becoming part of the problem. You're giving them the requisite tools to crush the entire society. You know, these people that they've identified as enemies of the state, they're blaming all of us for their actions. It's just a handful of people. Remember the alt-right? Remember that? The hue and cry over the alt-right? My God, they're all Nazis. Oh! They tried to say that the Nazi movement was a right-wing movement. It's a left-wing socialist, communist, totalitarian movement. How many people were actually there at the alt-right meeting? My God, 250 people. But those people are providing an opportunity for those who are running the government, into the ground, with some sort of predicate that they can blame the rest of us on. Is it absolutely ridiculous that guilt by association is a flawed totalitarian concept? Yeah, it absolutely is, but we see it again. We see it every day, every single day. We can't add to that. Defend yourself, yes. Go into the public square with your weapon? No. Your weapon is the American flag. Your weapon is the Constitution. Your weapon is your singing voice singing the national anthem of the United States. That is the only thing that you should ever show another true enemy of the state. And that's the mainstream media. More about that in a second. By the way, Jess points out that if you do leave California, don't bring California with you. Yeah, don't California my Texas. Thank you, Jess. Is the IRS really going to add auditors who will be authorized as police with weapons? Oh, and by the way, the IRS has a stash of ARs. Of course they do. Of course they do. I think for the last several years, one of the biggest government purchases of ammunition was from the IRS. You know, they wouldn't need this massive appropriation if they'd stop trying to build themselves into an army. Do they actually believe that none of us are paying attention? What are you guys doing? What are you, stupid? Yeah, the answer is yes, they are stupid. My sister's best friend forever is moving to Portugal. And of course, what part of Portugal? Front Portugal or back Portugal? I had a coworker that used to try to aggravate me. I made the point of being very nice to her in front of other people. Yeah. Yeah, you can actually do them in with kindness. All we have to do to stop all of this is stop all of this. We can do that anytime we want to. This is our country. Like I said last hour, we, the people, own this country, and we'd better start exerting our ownership. And you do that at the ballot box. You don't do that with an ammo box. You do it with a ballot box. Yeah, the IRS did put out, and I reported on this yesterday, they put out this famous ad that's going to be famous. They wanted people who could carry weapons and were prepared to use deadly force. For what? For what? What do they need to use deadly force for? If they are just and right and true, does anybody have any problem paying their taxes? No, not at all. You show up with a weapon at somebody's house and take their money, that's robbery. You really want to go down that road? No, we have to get people in government that sit there and say, okay, remember all that technological garbage that they put on the wall during the Obama administration to keep people out? The technological wall. We don't need an actual physical barrier. We can use technology. And we ended up seeing most of that equipment on eBay. I think it's going to be absolutely great when all those weapons that the IRS and all that ammo that the IRS has been purchasing for gosh knows how long ends up at the civilian marksmanship program, where people like you and me can purchase all that stuff for pennies. And that's what we have to do. We have to elect people that will go do that. By the way, while we're talking about the civilian marksmanship program, can we please pass a law that makes it possible to re-import all those battle rifles and all of those pieces of American property that are currently stashed in gigantic warehouses all throughout the entire world? Can we please bring that stuff back home? Those are great rifles. I'd really like to have another one or two. I really would. I think they're wonderful. I mean, is it because I want to go out and make war? No. No, I don't. I want to have a nice collection. That's what I want. That's what I want. I just want to have a nice collection. We have to start electing the right people. That's how we win this. That's how we win this. Let's see. Auditors who have no math or computer skills. Right. They're not looking for auditors. They're looking for police officers. And a stash of ammo. Several government agencies do. Yeah, because the American government allows them to. Let's see. What else is going on in this chat room? Like I said, I was going to go to here. Yeah, armed thugs are armed thugs, no matter what the agency. True. Or they could sell it to another country rather than Americans, like they did with all the spent brass, said Yvonne Field. Yeah, they could do that. But once again, it all comes back to the same problem. We're electing the wrong people. We're electing the wrong people. And that's not their fault. It's not their fault they got elected. It's our fault they got elected. Everybody that's doing all this garbage, we put them in office. We need to stop. Back with more in a moment. This is the Wells Report. This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Thanks very much for joining us. If you like this broadcast, do a few things for me. Please, by all means, give us a like. Yeah, please give us a thumbs up. Okay, also, by the way, share it with all your friends. And one last thing, subscribe. Subscribe to this podcast. Subscribe to this broadcast. You can do so on Facebook. You can do so on Twitter. You can do so on Twitch. You can do so on YouTube. Subscribe. It would really help us out. By the way, you can also now subscribe on Patreon. If you go to the Patreon page, by the way, you can't see anything because this will be the first show. If everything works, this will be the first show that will appear on Patreon. So whatever you do, make sure that I'm going to make sure that actually happens. Cross your fingers. And but go there and let's double check to make sure that this show shows up on Patreon. I think it will. Speaking of electing the wrong people, okay? And I want to talk to my Democrat friends, and I have many. I want to talk to my Democrat friends. You know, you can hate Donald Trump, you can hate Republicans, you can hate freedom and liberty, you can hate the Constitution, and you can do all that stuff you want to. But it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you. Let me give you an example of a politician who has no business being in office and what he said today. Democrat Representative Richard Neal of Massachusetts said that the House would increase tax rates if his party remains in power following the upcoming midterm elections this fall. This is according to a congressional reporter. Here's a guy that doesn't think that you pay enough to the federal government. Well, the answer is nobody actually pays enough to the federal government. That's why they're $31 trillion in debt. Because of people like this guy. And guess who? And guess what this guy does for a living? He is the chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee. He said Democrats, should they keep power in the House, will look to raise tax rates, corporate and individual, in 2023. So, by all means, if you're a Democrat, keep voting for Democrats like Democrat Representative Richard Neal. Go right ahead. It's going to cost you a fortune. If you want to see the government spend your money instead of you spending your money, by all means, go right ahead. This is a perfect example of the guy that we do not need to have in office. We don't need to elect socialists. We don't need to elect communists. We don't need to elect totalitarians. We don't need to do any of that. And yet we do. We do. We empower these clowns. The Inflation Reduction Act, a social spending and tax increase measure that's expected to pass the House today, includes a proposed expansion of the Internal Revenue Service. We've been talking about it. 87,000 new guys with weapons and ammo. What for? Well, because the government said it was okay. Because the wrong people are in government. The expansion includes an $80 billion boost to the IRS over a 10-year period, with more than half intended to help the agency crack down on tax evasion. If the bill is passed, the money allotted will go towards filling 87,000 IRS positions, more than doubling the agency's current size. The Treasury Department would say some of the new hires would replace 50,000 employees who are expected to retire in the next 5 years. Measure passed in the Senate along party lines, it's got to go to the House. The President of the United States doesn't make enough. Yeah. Oh, wait. In Squawk Box, the White House economic advisor Jared Bernstein was questioned about the impacts of the Inflation Reduction Act. And he asked whether the IRS agents would audit individuals making less than $400,000 a year. I want to be clear. The president guaranteeing nobody making under $400,000 will be audited by the new agents. No, that's not what I said. Anybody making under $400,000 will pay higher taxes under the Inflation Reduction Act. See, they can't get it together because we keep electing the wrong people. Let's stop. More about the true enemy of people. More about the true enemy of the people coming up. This is the Wells Report. This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Our telephone number is 817-379-2172. Subscribe. Please. Please. I said please. I have been a part of the United States media my entire life. I started taking it seriously in 2001 after 9/11, and I realized that we simply had to do a better job reporting the news. And rather than just say, you guys ought to do a better job of reporting the news, I said, wait a minute. I'm a broadcaster. I can report the news. And so on 9/11, 2001, I started doing it. I've been doing it ever since. But I've been in the media for almost 50 years, 50 years. I started when I was -2. So what I have seen is I've seen this supposed free press turn into a lurid propaganda machine, an agent of public shame, a fascist, belligerent, useless entity. And I'm not the only one. And I'm not the only one that talks about it on podcasts like this. Remember Barry Weiss? She was a former New York Times reporter. She decided what she was going to do was she was going to walk away from the New York Times because of what she called an illiberal environment. Well, she came up with a podcast. It's called Honestly with Barry Weiss, Bari Weiss. And Tim Scott, who is a Republican senator, the only black Republican senator in the Senate of the United States, was doing an op-ed that he wanted to get published in the New York Times. This happened around 2020. The article itself was about the Justice Act, which strengthened training methods, allowed for body cameras, more body cameras on the street. 40% of police officers from jurisdictions nationwide report to the FBI after an incident where an officer has been discharged or has discharged his or her weapon or used force, things like that. What it did was it required accountability, transparency, and other additional steps. Weiss was talking about it on her podcast, once again, Honestly with Barry Weiss, about blatant media bias. The audio snippet appeared on Thursday, yesterday. It featured Weiss describing the account to the South Carolina senator, and the account that she was describing was eye-watering. During the podcast, Weiss and Scott spoke about the 2020 bill, which was aimed at establishing bipartisan police reform in the wake of the murder of George Floyd. Weiss said to Scott, "I want to tell you a little story I'm not sure that you know." She alerted him to the incident in 2020 where the New York Times newsroom debated publishing his op-ed about the Justice Act and why it was never published, the op-ed. She continued, here's the part I'm not sure you know. There was a discussion about the piece, in other words, the op-ed piece, and whether or not we should run it, the New York Times, whether they should run it on the New York Times. One colleague, a more senior colleague, said to a more junior colleague who was pushing for the piece, let us publish this thing. The senior colleague said, do you think the Republicans really care about minority rights? Senator Scott said, wow. Weiss's story kept going. The more junior colleague said, I think Tim Scott cares about minority rights. And then came the really shocking part. The more senior colleague said, quote, let's check with Senator Schumer before we run it. They're talking about Chuck Schumer in the New York Times newsroom. Before we run an op-ed piece by Tim Scott talking about reforming policing in the United States in a way that was accountable, transparent, etc. Let's talk to Chuck Schumer about it. Why in God's name would that ever happen? Why in heaven's name would anybody in a newsroom go to a high government official, in this case, the current majority leader of the United States Senate, and get a sign off on an op ed piece. It's none of his business. But then again, maybe it is his business. Maybe calling the shots at the New York Times explains a whole hell of a lot about where we find ourselves in this nation and where the mainstream media finds itself. Weiss indicated the younger staffer refused to reach out to the House minority leader at the time. He's the majority leader now. Worried about ethics concerns. But the senior guy that was discussing this, who wanted to get in touch with Chuck Schumer, he had no problem with ethics. There are no ethics problems. Weiss then asked, are you surprised to hear that? Or does the story feel kind of representative the way the media has treated you and maybe some of your colleagues? Scott claimed he was not surprised, added he had experience with such treatment before. Quote, I am disappointed to hear that. I'm not surprised. You have to remember the Washington Post fact-checked my life. They referenced how the paper spent 3 or 4 months going through records to find out whether or not my grandfather actually dropped out of school in the 3rd grade. Their record suggested he dropped out in the 4th grade, but he still didn't learn how to read. They wanted to know if I had somehow hidden my silver spoon and was just using a plastic spoon instead. Then he went on to say there is something national media wants to frame any conservatives, particularly black conservatives, as being disingenuous or insincere. I just sneezed. Or insincere. Or a tool for conservatives, when in fact the black community is consistently as conservative as any community. So somebody who had been there, a reporter for the New York Times, tells us a story about how a senior staffer there wanted to check with the now majority leader of the United States Senate before they ran an op-ed piece by one of the senators in the United States who just happened to be a Republican. That tells you everything you need to know. Everything. The New York Times is a propaganda rag. CNN, they're trying really, really hard to stop being a propaganda rag. Are they having success? Not much. We'll see. But the mainstream media is an enemy of the people. Donald Trump said it first. Because they're not reporting the news. They're reporting what the news should be according to their politics. That's propaganda. And there are people out there that are actually paying attention. Actually paying attention. Actually believing what they're hearing. They shouldn't. I believe that you should be here. I believe that you should be watching this newscast. Because I will tell you that if there's something that's wrong in the news, I'm going to report it. And I don't care whose political ox gets gored. I don't care. All I am is an American. Not a Republican, not a Democrat, not a leftist. Am I conservative? Yes. Am I conservative because everybody should be conservative and wear short hair and really severe suits? No, I'm conservative because if you have a big government, you're going to have big problems. If you have a small government, you're going to have small problems. I would rather have small problems, wouldn't you? And by the way, a $31 trillion national debt is not a small problem. And they're responsible for it. Well, actually, we are, because we put them in power. And we better stop. We better stop. They're trying to trash the Constitution, trying to trash God-given rights. They're trying to do all of that. So when you start thinking about all that stuff, you got to start thinking about the realities of it. What does it actually mean? If you're a Democrat, what does your vote actually mean? What are you actually trying to accomplish? You're trying to empower a bigger government? How much bigger does it have to be before you realize that you're adding to the incompetence pile? How many mistakes do you have to see them make before you realize that you're being had? You're being played like a guitar. Remake your ideology. Start with the Constitution. Start with the Declaration of Independence. Just go back to where the country actually started. Read the document for yourself. Actually pay attention to what the words mean. We are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights. In other words, rights that cannot have a lien placed against them. Not inalienable. It's unalienable. And God gave them to us. Everywhere else in the world, your rights are given to you not by God, but by the government. When the government changes, so do your rights. Not here. God gave you these rights. The government cannot place a lien on any of them. Unalienable. Read the documents. Start there. And then when you look at this Democrat dude that says, yeah, as soon as if we keep control of the Senate, or we keep control of the House of Representatives, we're going to raise everybody's taxes. That's a great campaign speech. Elect me, I'll make you poorer. No, you won't. And he'll probably get elected because you don't get to be that arrogant without believing that you're untouchable. You better touch him. You better touch him. Because if you don't touch him, he's going to touch you. It's going to be a hell of a lot worse than losing a cush government job. You don't have to worry about his job, by the way, because he served in Congress. He's going to make $175,000 a year for the rest of his life. You don't have to worry about any of this. Alan says Trump added $6.7 trillion to the debt between fiscal year 2017 and fiscal year 2020. I'm sorry, when was COVID? The Biden administration spent $6.2 trillion in the first 6 months of their administration. Did you forget that part? Did you forget that part? No, don't get me wrong. See, it's not really the presidents that bug me with spending. It's the House of Representatives that bugs me with spending. That's what bugs me. You know, who was running the Congress holds the purse strings, right? It's in the Constitution. That's the part of what you need to do. $2 trillion this time. Go back and look at the record, Langston. Anyway, Alan, go back and read the Constitution of the United States. Who holds the purse strings? Is it the president? No, it's the Congress. It's the House of Representatives. It's one of the checks and balances. Nancy Pelosi is the person who has spent more money in this nation than anybody in human history. She's responsible for all those bills, every single one of them. The President of the United States doesn't spend a dime. Okay? Doesn't spend a dime. So, like I said, reevaluate. Start with the Declaration of Independence, then read the Constitution. It's 4 pages. But pay attention to what it actually means. Then read the Bill of Rights, every single one of them. Some of them are really stupid. Okay, but read it anyway. Read the Federalist Papers. Read them all. They're like 90 essays. 90, I think there are 98 of them. Read the Federalist Papers. Those are the people that put all this stuff together, and they explain why they did it. So there you go. Anyway, if you do that, I think you'll find a different America, certainly a different America than the one that is reported to you every day, except on this broadcast. Okay, this is, you people talk about how divided America is. This is how you solve it. Go back to the documents that created the best country on earth, and we can recreate the best country on earth again. Make America great again. All of us, not just some of us. That's how you stand together instead of trying to push each other away. Just saying. You're listening to The Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. We'll be back with more coming up in just a couple of minutes on this Friday afternoon. You are listening to The Wells Report. I am John David Wells. I'm multitasking. Actually, I'm trying to multitask. I'm not actually doing it. Hang on a second. Let's see here. Yeah, we were just talking about how much the government has spent. Let's see. Let's see what we got here. President Biden signed the $1.9 trillion coronavirus. And there was other stuff that he did. He came up with $6.2 trillion worth of spending. He's got a $3.5 trillion spending plan investing in social programs and climate policy. Let's see what else. Yeah, go ahead and add that up. Just go ahead and add up the stuff that President Biden is trying to spend or has spent. It's a lot more than $2 trillion. Just let you know, just for whatever that's worth. Okay, let's keep rolling here. Life is hard. And every time you sit there and you say, life is hard, life is hard. Yeah, it is, but it could be worse. And people go, how? Usually what happens when I say, hey, it could be worse. Oh, yeah, how? It could be me. No. You could be working at Google in the sales department. Okay? Google executives are telling their employees to shape up or ship out. This from the New York Post. Warning that layoffs are coming if results don't meet expectations. Employees who work in the Google Cloud sales department said their senior leadership told them there will be an, quote, overall examination of sales productivity and productivity in general, unquote. And then they said this: if third quarter results don't look up, then there will be blood in the streets. That's a quote. It's according to a message conveyed to the sales team. Employees told the Business Insider that they are fearful of layoffs after the company quietly extended its hiring freeze this month without making an announcement. Google CEO Sundar Pichai told his employees in an all-hands meeting last month that they needed to improve their focus. They need to improve their focus and their productivity due to fierce economic headwinds that have forced widespread belt-tightening all throughout the technology sector. Boy, it sounds like Google is having to deal with a recession. That can't be true, can it? Yeah. Pichai said that he wanted to solicit ideas from his employees on how to get better results faster. It's clear that we're facing a challenging macro environment with more uncertainty ahead. There are real concerns that our productivity as a whole is not where it needs to be for the head count that we have. The search engine also announced a 2-week hiring freeze last month, but so far it has not reversed its decision, prompting employees to fear the worst. Since Pichai's comments, everybody's been talking about the company tightening its belt. And that's what one employee told the Business Insider. Google is not the only tech company that has put its employees on notice. Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO and founder of Facebook's parent company Meta, blamed one of the worst downturns that we've seen in recent history for a series of cost-cutting measures, including a hiring freeze. Zuckerberg also made it clear that his company will part ways with employees who do not perform up to par. Realistically, there are probably a bunch of people at the company who shouldn't be here. So, what kind of headwinds are they talking about? What are they discussing? The economy is in great shape. Everything's turned around. See, this is where politics meets reality. Yeah. That's where politics meets reality. So everybody can glad hand and everybody can talk and everybody can say, we don't know, we have to redefine what a recession is. We can do all that stuff all we want to. But when people are losing their jobs, that's a different kettle of fish. And two of the biggest companies on the planet, two of the biggest companies in the history of the human endeavor, we're talking about losing employees, putting them on notice, etc. Why? If the economy's turning around, what's the problem? You see, this is why we do as best we can to give you the news. Because you're not going to get the news from people who supposedly are news people. I don't have a dog in the hunt. All I'm interested in is truth. It's the motto of the show, truth spoken here. It's all I want to do. I just want to tell the truth. That's all. You've been listening to the Wells Report. You've been watching it too, and I want to thank you very much. Do not forget, please, by all means, subscribe to the broadcast. Whatever platform you're on, please subscribe to the podcast. Ring the bell so that you know when the podcast hits the air, when the broadcast hits the air. Also, go to Patreon. I just set up a Patreon today. I'm hoping it works. I'm hoping this show is going to show up on Patreon. Because a lot of people showed up and started contributing to the broadcast. I certainly hope there's something on Patreon they can watch. If not, I'll solve the problems over the weekend and get it done on Monday. God bless you all. Take good care of everything you do today. Make good decisions. Be safe. And I'll see you again Monday for more of the Wells Report. Thanks very much. See you Monday. Okie doke. Let's have a great weekend, huh? Be safe. Be safe. Make really good decisions. Peace, love, joy, okay? Bye-bye.